The town was stormed on the 11th of September. Our cannon having made a breach near the St. Mary's Church, the General Cromwell ordered the assault. Our men went up with great resolution, but at first were beaten off. Then Colonel Castle's and Colonel Ewer's regiments renewed the attack, and after a sharp dispute entered the town, putting all to the sword that opposed them. The enemy fled into the Mill Mount and into St. Peter's steeple and church, where they continued fighting till night. The general gave command that all who were in arms should be put to death. Never was there so great a slaughter in so short a time. The soldiers spared neither man nor priest. About 2,000 were killed in the storming, and more in the churches and towers afterwards. I saw with my own eyes the streets running with blood, bodies piled in heaps before the breaches, and the cries of the wounded filling the air. The church of St. Peter's burned fiercely, lighting the town as night fell. Those who yielded cried for quarter, but were cut down without mercy. Some few, being unarmed and women, were spared, but very few. By morning, the town was utterly subdued, and the example struck such terror into the Irish that several other places yielded without a blow.
When the Parliament army drew near Wexford, we who were within the town were full of dread, for tidings of Drogheda's cruelty had reached us. The people, old and young, crowded to the quays seeking ships, for they expected no mercy. Day and night we prayed in the churches. On the 9th of October, Cromwell's forces assaulted the walls at the Seagate. Treachery and terror opened them. Many of our own fled or yielded. Then entered the soldiers with sword and musket, sparing none they found in arms. I saw from the convent windows our streets run red, our women dragged from their houses, and men cut down as they begged for life. Flames caught in several quarters, and the town became a furnace. Some fled into the river, but were shot or drowned. Our sacred vessels and vestments were seized, churches defiled, priests hunted as traitors. In a few hours, Wexford, which had been a great and thriving port, lay smoking and desolate, its people slain or scattered. Never in all our long wars had we seen such pitiless execution. Word of this slaughter went forth into Leinster and Munster, and many towns, struck with fear, opened their gates to the Parliament rather than endure our fate.
I went into Ireland with Colonel Hewson's regiment after the taking of Drogheda. We thought ourselves instruments of God's justice, and were bidden remember Amalek and Babylon. Yet the things I saw there haunt my sleep. At Drogheda, the streets were so choked with corpses our horses stumbled over them. I helped drag cannon through blood and ashes. We gave no quarter to priest or soldier. Even boys that bore arms we slew. I was ordered into St. Peter's Church, where many had fled. There we fired the roof, and shot down those who leapt from the windows. We called it a righteous judgment then. At Wexford it was the same or worse. The town was betrayed from within. Once we entered, our men broke loose, killing, plundering, ravishing. We were promised spoil, and some stuffed their pockets with plate from the churches, while houses burned about them. I saw women and children cut down who never bore weapon. In the months after, as we marched through Leinster and Munster, towns opened their gates for fear of another Drogheda. We called it victory, but I began to think it terror rather. Even now, writing these lines, I pray God forgive us our zeal and the blood of the innocents we shed.
After the towns of Drogheda and Wexford were destroyed, the name of Cromwell struck fear in every hearth. I lived in a village near Kilkenny. When word came that the Parliament army marched our way, we fled to the bogs and woods, with only what we could carry. I remember the winter nights when whole families lay under branches, the children crying from cold. We saw the fires of our homes rising behind us. Those who were taken by the soldiers were sent westward, beyond the Shannon, or transported to Barbados. I lost my brother that way. He was seized while seeking food and never seen again. Some priests were hanged in the market towns. Others hid among us in disguise. The Parliament horse scoured the lanes and fields, seizing cattle and burning the stacks. They said it was to deny food to the rebels, but it left women and babes without bread. By the spring of 1651, our numbers had thinned. Plague and hunger did the work the sword had left undone. We whispered of Drogheda and Wexford as though of doomsday, believing every day would be our last. Even when Kilkenny surrendered, few dared return to their farms. The old Ireland I knew was gone, its churches broken, its people scattered across the seas.
I was with Hugh Doob O'Neill when Cromwell came before Clonmel. We had heard of Drogheda and Wexford and swore we would not surrender alive. We numbered but a few thousand with little powder, yet our trenches were well made and our hearts were hard. For days Cromwell battered our walls with his great guns, but we had dug ditches within ditches. On the 9th of May they stormed our breach at the north wall, thinking to repeat Drogheda. But our musketeers and pikemen stood in ranks behind the earthworks and poured volleys into them. I saw the best of their troops tumble like sheaves under the harvest blade. They tried again and again. Still we held, firing from loopholed houses, stabbing with pikes, even throwing stones when powder failed. By evening their dead lay in heaps, and Cromwell himself withdrew, grim and silent. We had lost many, but their losses were greater. Yet we had no food or powder left, and the townsfolk cried for relief. That night, while we slipped away across the Swere, the mayor yielded the keys to Cromwell. When his army entered, they found an empty town. Though they raised their banner over our walls, they knew they had been bloodied. It was the one place in Ireland where Cromwell failed to take by storm, and it gave our people hope even in those dark years.